Oh, Charlie, dear.
Yes, Alastor?
I have to quickly get someone.
Charlie looked behind herself. The army of bloodthirsty cannibals was standing there, shaking with excitement of the coming extermination. We just had a whole episode about how we need to arm ourselves and go to war, and that is still not enough?
Yes, I greatly appreciate your effort. It's just one more demon. Don't worry, I'll get her for you.
Charlie gulped. Alastor, I have a bad feeling about this.
You should.
Hell outside the city could only be described as worse. Spiky, cracked rocks, hot climate, and nothing but dust, sand, and the occasional demon. Be it hellborn or sinnerborn. Practically anything that lived here had lost most, if not all, of their humanity, permanently stuck in their most demonic of forms. Ceaselessly killing and feeding, breeding and ravaging. Here, the true anarchy of hell reigned. And more than likely, this was what people expected from hell after reading the Bible. Alastor hated it here. It was so undignified. Sure, it was fun, but no style, no art, and most importantly, no one cared. Crouching behind a rock, he watched an abstract demon with 8 legs and 4 wings crawl forward like a monstrous centaur, its right arm ending in a long stone-like appendage. With salvia covering its maw, it stomped on the ground. Alastor's eyes narrowed. It seemed to be trying to get something out of a little hole. A small pink tentacle thing was poking out and retreating back into small holes all around the center. Screaming angrily, it hit the ground hard with its rock arm, only for a circle of teeth to suddenly sprout out from the ground in response. The earth quaked as the monstrous demon snapped its jaws shut over the centaur. The giant worm was black, covered in hundreds, thousands of large red eyes that swirled around to get a good look at the environment, as it growled in a low drone. Teeth now beginning to gnash loudly, crunching and breaking the bones of the creature just devoured, before retreating back underground. Alastor was certain he could beat both of these things, though the problem was that this would take too much time. He needed to get to his destination. After all, he hasn't been here in 7 years, maybe a little more. He was happy at that nothing had changed. As he walked, he noticed 7 pairs of eyes on him. From a total of 4 monsters, yes. It took him around 3 seconds to spot each and every one of them. The last time he had been here, it had only taken him less than 2 to snuff out all the things that crawled about. Either he was getting rusty, or he was too weakened by his contract. In the worst case scenario, they had gotten better. He exhaled loudly. The things in this place evolving. Ugh, that truly would be terrible. The angels should strike here first, but it seemed that they were too focused on the city itself. But well, maybe the feral animals here were mere afterthoughts to them. After all, an animal can rebel, yes, but a whole horde of them? That was too unorganized. Too vicious to each other to see the grand scheme of things. But why was Alastor in this place, a man of dignity and purpose such as himself? Surely would not have any acquaintance here, would he? The radio demon stepped into a barren crater. A giant black rock stood in the middle. A hushing noise came from behind Alastor as the hunters retreated, all except for one. Loudly, the radio demon started humming. This little demon was brave, wasn't he? Alastor strutted forward, the predator quickly rushing forward. Its tongue hanging out, some beige creature with razor-sharp teeth, running on all fours, probably thinking if I was fast enough I could get him. Its eyes were filled with malice, all three of them. The radio demon pretended not to hear or see it. And just as he felt its breath on his neck, poof, it was gone. That was as much as a reaction as Alastor would give the thing. As he got further, the ground became more and more loose, which annoyed Alastor. His socks and shoes would be ruined, but alas, he had to save the hotel for his own enjoyment. Stopping in front of the boulder at the center, looking into a deep hole that was much larger than should physically be able to fit into it. A non-Euclidean space used by a very special friend of his.
Cruelty, darling, I have a job for you.
No response.
Don't kid yourself, Cruelty. I know you have been watching me the moment I took a step into your territory.
A pair of wide eyes appeared in the darkness in response to that. The noise of teeth gnashing into wet flesh echoing from it. And then a bloody beige muscular arm was thrown out of the hole, landing in the dirt before Alastor, blood spewing out of its wound.
No, darling, I'm not hungry right now, but thanks for the offer.
The eyes tilted to the side.
Ah, yes, you're interested. I can smell it.
A growl akin to that of a large feline echoed as the eyes blinked. You are thinking. The demon spoke words. He was familiar, yes. A mate, a partner, a job, breed. A large yet feminine-looking claw appeared out of the shadows. Slowly you crawled forward. From Alastor's point of view, your pose may come off as submissive, but he could see your muscles moving beneath your grayish skin. You are getting ready to pounce.
Cruelty, darling, as lovely as always.
You were a being often referred to as nature's mockery. A so-called nightmare demon. They were rather common in the deeper layers of hell. Nightmare demons had experienced unimaginable torment in life, making their hellish demonic rebirth a torturous one. Your body was grey, humanoid, with elongated arms and legs. Blood still covered your clawed hands. The two glowing white orbs inside of your large circular mouth, that was 90% of your face, covered in rows and rows of swirling blood-covered teeth. Long hair hanging down your head like black tendrils, and you are dressed in black rags from what used to be a dress. Flesh, blood, muscles, a satiated hunger. You painfully, patiently waited for a moment of opportunity to rip this demon limb from limb.
I have something for you, Cruelty, to make this more fun.
Out of his jacket, Alastor pulled a porcelain mask. Your mouth closed. Alastor, radio demon. Yes, yes, master, tyrant, slave maker. You huddled back into the void. Terrible idea to hurt this one.
No, I'm not threatening to break it again.
Alastor placed the mask on the ground and took a step back.
See?
Gift, offering, life, precious, Alastor, protect, take, breed. Your hand moved over the mask, hovering over it for a moment. But then your hand buried into the soot next to the mask, and with a loud feral scream you slammed onto the radio demon. A surprised cough coming out of him as he landed with his bag on the ground. Your salvia oozing mouth hovering mere inches over his face, your teeth circling rapidly.
You're not going to eat me, Cruelty. You don't scare me.
Breathe. Breathe. It wasn't until your claws began tearing at his coat that he realized that you indeed remembered him, and you indeed weren't about to eat him.
Nah,
He shouted, putting his hand on the little bit of skin that formed your chin.
That's not what we do tonight, got it? That's merely a reward.
Reward. Breathe, Alastor. Not heeding his warning, your mouth clamped on his face, his fingers turning to fists as he stared directly at your two eyes. A large, black, tendril-like tongue shot out of the gaping abyss that was your maw. It was cold as it slurped and snaked around his face, smelling of blood and viscera. As Alastor's precious visage was getting covered in your salvia, disgusted he grunted, before kicking you in the stomach hard enough to throw you off of him. Angrily he wiped his face with a handkerchief, where you circled him like prey, leaving after images to confuse him, though that trick never worked. You just did it out of instinct.
Cruelty, what was that about?
He hissed, almost losing his temper.
Aren't you happy I brought your face back?
Face, humanity, life, self, me, city, noises, loud, Alastor, breathe! He had forgotten how needy of a pet you could be sometimes. Well, that's what 7 years does to a man. Carefully he studied your movements, as he strained every muscle in his body, while using his shadow to gently nudge the mask closer. And just when you went for another attack, he threw the mask into his hand, shoving the porcelain thing on your face before your mouth could once again encase his face. The reaction was immediate. Your body convulsed as you threw yourself off of him. Your claws breaking and creaking, turning into a pair of dainty little hands. Screaming as your thoughts turned from rivers of blood to a more manageable, eerie silence. The voices in your head quailed, at least most of them. Falling on your back, your toes curled painfully and lustfully. You were exhaling heavily, heaving like you had just run a marathon.
What a woman,
muttered Alastor sarcastically. Nightmare demons were such interesting abominations. Delusional, evil, and most importantly monstrous. The sins committed by you in life were all of them. The embodiment of impurity, lust, and evil desires, fits of rage, selfish ambitions, dissensions, factions and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. A demon in life and a monster in death. It was only understandable that a demon of your caliber would be attracted to and be attractive to Alastor. Like all nightmares, you could only suppress the countless voices in your head by donning the mask that you had spawned within hell. And that's why you were perfect for the job of defending the hotel, by virtue of being one of hell's most depraved creations. It would be very symbolic if you tore Adam limb from limb. Ah, that would be an interesting spectacle. And one of the few beings who could overpower Alastor with ease just happened to be you. Hence why he didn't even try to defend himself aside from shoving you away when you got a little too hands-on. He still felt a stinging in his right shoulder, old wounds, as your piercing gaze met his. Alastor hated this. Rubbing over the spot, he approached you as you got up on your feet, hands neatly folded in your lap as you looked at him. Your tattered clothes now appearing more like a black wedding dress. The porcelain mask moving like it had been your real face all along. And if it wasn't for the countless cracks, it might as well be confused as such. Alastor, you said, voice filled with malice. Placing one hand on your chest, you bowed before him. I apologize. I got a little excited when I saw you. The few voices that still echoed in your head demanded, no, screamed at you to fuck him. You could just barely see the gaping, hungry maw of your real face through the opening of your porcelain mouth as you spoke. Salvia was dripping from behind its chin, and only a thin line of spittle came drooling down your fake lips. You just look so very delicious, dear Alastor. His neck hairs perked up. While Rosie's double entendres when it came to devouring him didn't faze him, coming from you, they were a tangible threat. I missed you a lot. I'm glad I stopped counting the days since I last saw you. Not that I could count further after a certain point. What brings you here? I know you. If you wanted my body, you wouldn't have brought this. You pointed at your white face.
Yes, darling, I need to discuss something with you, and, it was 7 years, darling. 7 years.
You clapped your hands, delighted. Oh, wonderful. But now, I wish I had some tea. Snapping his fingers, Alastor summoned a black portal out of which 2 black chairs and a black table appeared. A shadowy tendril placed a tea can and 2 cups on it.
Do you mean like this? Cruelty?
With contained excitement, you sat down opposite to Alastor. He poured you a cup. Taking a sip of the red, thick concoction, you mused, licking your lips. Ah, it's simply delightful. Whose blood is this?
Ah, nothing major, darling. Just some useless hellhound who took a selfie of me in Zestia without permission.
Well, if you see the little guy again, tell him that his pain is absolutely delicious. Smoothly the hound's blood ran down your throat. Now you tilted your head. You didn't come here for lust or tea, then. I know I'm not important enough in your schedule for that. What do you need me to do? Alice's grin became more controlled.
What if I told you I got confirmation that angels can die too?
You leaned forward, placing a hand on your chin. I tell you, toy, everything can be killed, you just need to want it enough. Alice himself took a sip, sighing with delight, before saying,
Ah, well, that is true, darling, but aren't you curious as to how to do it? It's their own weapons, darling.
Your eyes widened with surprise. I'm offended. Alastor snickered. And why is that? And I didn't think of that. It's too obvious. Though then again, what supernatural creature would craft weapons so powerful they can also be used against itself? A little foolhardy, if you ask me. But this isn't everything. Where do I come into play here, Alastor?
I want you to participate in a slaughter.
The muscles in your hand buzzed with electricity as you crushed the teacup in your hand upon hearing these words. Well, that does sound like my thing. Your voice was shaking, the voices in your head getting louder. Is this your repayment for those 7 years that you left me here, all alone, just playing with myself?
Well, darling, what do you remember from our last outing together?
You whipped your wrist in the air to get the shards and gore off your hand. Well, you took my face, and we fucked until I passed out. And when I woke up, you stood right over there. You pointed at the crater's edge.
Yes, I admit, I needed to place a lot of dominoes into the correct positions. And I didn't want to risk your life after all 7 years of exterminations happened while you had been here. Hunting. Don't want to risk your life.
I did so much more than hunt. You blew a kiss at him, which made him shudder, and his right shoulder ache. During your lovemaking, you had torn off his arm in a fit of misguided passion. Or more, the voices in your head had a mistake in their ardors. He needed to make absolutely sure that when you were in the hotel, that mask stayed on. It was the only thing keeping you at bay. With your hand, you combed through your hair. Well, you had me at slaughter, Alastor, but this is still a lot. I mean, I'd be risking my life. The voices were getting louder. Your head started to ring. You leaned forward. With a finger, Alastor booped your nose to make sure your mask stayed on.
Fine, then, darling.
He hated that he was forced to say the next words, but
as long as that mask of yours stays on.
You grinned widely, almost demented. Boring. You placed a hand on his, and his reaction was almost unnoticeable, a mere twitch of his left eye. He hated this. All of his nerves were screaming at him. Disgusting. Only you could handle him like this. If anyone else did, they'd be dead. It wasn't respect, nor was it fear. It was simply a compromise. This entire conversation, a compromise. Or at least that's what he told himself. He could hear your wet teeth turning with excitement behind that mask. Where will I be deployed?
The Hazbin Hotel, a pretty little place, practically built up together with the owner, a wonderful girl named Charlie, is in charge of it. The hotel's all about redemption and sending sinners to heaven. But the little hellspawn made heaven a little upset, and they're going to start wiping out demons at the hotel in less than 48 hours. All you need to do is get yourself together for long enough and only kill angels for a day. No demons. Maybe in that case I can even get you a permanent stay there.
You tilted your head.
Just imagine it, cruelty, darling. You in heaven, of all people.
Honestly, he just wanted you around for the chaos factor. And whenever the hotel was in danger, and he didn't feel like making his hands dirty. But then, without warning, in less than a second, Alastor was thrown to the ground, the table and chairs kicked to the side. Quicker than the blink of an eye. The Ray Demon inhaled sharply as he looked at your fake face. It smiled down at him with eternal malice. I could feel him beneath me. His warm, demonic body, breathing, hissing, his muscles churning, heart even though he claimed to not have one beating fast, pumping blood all throughout his body. It was hard to control myself, even though he most likely would claim I already lost it. Control. 7 years I was stuck in the craggy plains, feasting on demons, covered in guts, blood, dirt, and musk, waiting for him. Any sanity I may have had still at this point, having left my body. He didn't intend it. Maybe he did. But he created something. He created me, rebirthed me. I can feel him. He is resisting beneath me. Even his horns are bursting out of his skull, but even that won't be enough. A smile sweeter than the final embrace of death. My tongue rolls out of my cracked jaws, my poison dropping into his open, heaving mouth. I can feel his pupils widen as his ears tightly press against his scalp in fear. He pushes against my restraints, but he is too weak, too pathetic, like a deer in the headlights. He tries to flee, and I let him, my hands slipping only for a moment. Disgust on his face, he crawls away, still thinking he's the one in control here. But now, I have my face back. Now it's my turn, my time, my fun. My claws sink into his ankle as I pull him back into my embrace. Still his smile persists, but it's strained. So much his own teeth are cracking, eyes turning into the shape of clocks. In desperation, he pulls no punches. I feel the tendrils from his shadow wrap around my waist, and yet they're not strong enough to push me away. They tear, pull, pinch at my skin, and in response, all I do is lick his face. Alastor's beautiful face. Salty and a little metallic. But even a man who saw himself a god eventually gives up. And finally his resistance broke. I tear my claws through his clothes. He's thin. Usually. But in his demonic form, right now, it was beautifully muscular. My tongue moves from his lips down to his chest, wrapping around one of his sensitive butts. He hisses in response. He was getting desperate. Feral like you, feral lovers. And that's when I feel it. A searing pain. Seems as if he hasn't given up the fight just yet. Oh, my beautiful little prey. The tendril burrows into my flesh, and yet I gasp sensually, pleased by his intrusion. I can feel it rubbing against the bones of my spine delightfully, pressing my lips on his. I feel his coldness, his indifference to me, the detachment he's trying to achieve, but my lust for this man is unmatched. My tongue forces itself down into his throat. He chokes as I lap up the liquids inside his mouth like an animal dying of thirst. Oh, sweet, sweet Salvia. His tendrils have now fully wrapped around my spine. I can feel it. The pain, the delicious pain. I can feel them churning on my thorax. The pain would be enough to madden a normal being, but for me, it's the most wonderful of hugs. He pulls as he tries to break every bone in my body, and yet only creaking can be heard. He's desperate now. And that's when I place a hand on my face. For a moment he stares at me.
Fuck.
gently pull it off. Meat. Alastor, breathe, flesh, blood, bones, pain, teeth, splatter, wounds. Touch, taste, breathe, breathe, breathe! Alastor was lying on his back. He could barely breathe. He was barely conscious. As you were cradling his head in your lap, your right hand gently patting his forehead, while the fingers of your left gently rubbed over his cheek. The area around the two of you was seeped with the remains of your lovemaking, or at least the thing you called lovemaking. I accept your quest, my love. You whispered in the sweetest of tones. I will defend the Hazbin Hotel, and then I will move in, and I will taste you every night. Thank you for watching my video until the very end. But before we say goodbye, I would like to say a big thank you to all of my lovely darling channel members. These Nuts, Ash Wisdom, Nicodemus D, The Tribute, Galaxia, Spammy, Raylan, Deathhund, Melofia, Muffin, Aruna, Meow Meow Person, Cherry Red Bunny, Cat Cove, Kaya Abyss, Bit Bit, Sleepy Town, Hella, Next Wrist, and AJ Anime Girl. Thank you. Your support is greatly appreciated.